Hey, good morning. Sorry for the delay over the last few weeks and getting these out. I still have managed to get one video out a week, but it's not been on a particularly quick schedule. We've just been really busy with end of the year stuff within the company and beginning of the year, which is always usually the busiest time of the year for us as a hard money private money lender. It's because we have a lot of clients who are trying to sell things or buy things right before the end of the year for tax purposes. And then everyone wants to get their house ready to go for the spring. So this is just a very busy time, and we had a very busy December and a good January happening right now. So that's always positive. So I'm trying to get better and better at these videos as far as structure. I'm sure once I nail that down over the next months, I'll probably go back and redo the original videos to make them a little more palatable for those watching. But they're sufficient for now. So if you've been following along, what's been done so far? Well, we did a 10-year letter. There's a video on it. And the whole point of that was to have an exercise that would help you clearly figure out kind of the ideal life you're striving for. And through that, we got core values. So like, what are the things that you really value in life that are important for you as a person and what you want to achieve in life? And then very similar to that, but more of a description of those values of what do they look like. And so we extracted a vision of your perfect life. And we wrote those down kind of as, they're not necessarily goals, 10-year goals, though they are, but we wrote them in a manner where it was kind of just describing what that 10-year vision looks like. So we've done that, and then we put all of those goals and values into that section of the Life Operating System, the LOS. So now what's next? Well, we're starting to get now into the nitty gritty, the stuff that's going to help you figure out what you need to do on a day-to-day basis, on a moment-to-moment basis to achieve your goals, be happy, achieve your life, all that type of thing. And so we come now to what's next, which is the 1-year letter. And it's the same as the 10-year letter, except instead of your 10-year future self writing to you, your 1-year self is writing to you. It's really important to focus on this part, that it's done, that it's accomplished, and you're just describing to yourself what it's like to live this life. We have this is what we're doing, we've achieved this is all, and you're writing as if it has happened. So really focus on that. And remember, life is as good as it can possibly be. Imagine that. 1 year from now, don't worry about how it's going to happen. Just write it that it's that as good as you can possibly imagine it being 1 year from now, that you've done that, you've accomplished that you've changed everything you want to change, and you're living exactly how you want it to be. So focus on what it feels like, how you feel, who's around you, what are they like, what is your day like, when do you wake up, what do you do, what's lunch like, what's the afternoon like, what's your weekends like, how's your relationship with your wife, what about your kids? Who are you spending your time with? What are you doing for a hobby? And when you're doing those things, what does it feel like to you? Really focusing on the feeling when you're doing this will help you really figure out what it is you want. It's just the way that it works. So, and describe it in as much detail. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about it flowing. Don't worry about contradicting yourself. Do not worry about contradicting yourself. If you say, I have this, and this is great, and this is how I want it, and then you're like, actually, that doesn't sound that good, don't erase it. Don't worry about it. Just move on, because when we go back and reread this, those type of contradictions actually help you the most figure out what you want, because you're like, wow, I originally wrote that I wanted that, but after I wrote that and really thought about it, I kind of went in this different direction. I wonder why that is. And you'll start to really hone in on some goals that are actually good, what you actually want. So don't erase anything. Just keep writing. Just keep word vomiting onto the paper. Ideally, you're hitting on at least spiritual, health, family, friends, hobbies, career, and community. So what's your spiritual life like? Do you pray? Do you meditate? Do you go to church? Do you, whatever the heck that means. Health, physical, mental, spiritual, same thing. What are you doing? Are you exercising? How do you exercise? What do you do? Do you play sports? Is that what you like to do? How do you eat? What are you doing to better your health? All that type of thing. What's your family life look like? Friends, family, uncles, cousins, wife, kids, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing for hobbies on the weekend, on the weeknights? What are you doing there in the middle of the day to make yourself happy? During the workday, do you have something that makes you happy during the middle of the workday that you spend 10 minutes doing or something like that? And then career. Yeah, obviously career is the big one. If you're watching this, it's because you're probably someone who really wants to be successful, right? Like, you don't come to these types of things and spend time watching videos and get into real estate groups and all that unless you want to be successful. So you're probably really going to spend time on your career, but don't neglect the other ones. But with your career, I would really focus on, not necessarily, it's okay, you talk about what you're doing, but don't be worried that you're going to pigeonhole yourself. Yeah, I remember my first version, it was like, I have 100 rental units, and I'm closing 100 real estate transactions as a realtor. Well, I never became a realtor, and I never became, I've never been a realtor who sold a property, and I only had like 10 rentals at my highest, and I'm down to 4. So what I've learned through the process is that you write as much detail as you can about what you're doing. It will change over time, but the actual core of it, of what your life looks like through all that, how much you're making, and what you do with it, and what your time is spent on, and like the important things for happiness are what are going to come out of that over the long term. So hopefully that made some sense, but just describe it in as much detail as you possibly can. And again, don't feel like if it just doesn't feel right, if you write a whole thing and you're like, I don't know, I feel like that's not exactly what I want, just keep writing until you feel like you got it. And try to hit on that. And then community, you may want to touch on this. I talked about it in the 10-year letter. Are you involved in philanthropy? Are you picking up trash on the weekends? Are you doing something that gets you involved to help your local or global community? The older you get, I feel like the more important that comes. When you're younger, you're really about learning and earning, and then as you get older, you do more and more returning. But if you want to think about that, there it is. So try to hit on at least these categories. I do think they are a pretty all-encompassing of the major aspects of life, but you could probably figure out something else. So don't be hesitant. Don't be afraid to add something, but at least try to hit on those. Let's see here. Yeah, I do want to hit on this one more time. If you write something that isn't what you wanted, just keep writing until you nail it. That's super important. Okay, so once you have the letter done, now with the 10-year letter, there was kind of 2 steps and 2 videos, and it was you write the letter, and then I did a video on what extraction looks like. But in this, you've already watched that video. This is all going to be combined. So you write the letter, and then maybe you do it immediately, maybe you take a day off, week off, whatever. But then you want to read the letter again, and you want to write down any goals, values, habits, to-dos, anything that's within there that you're like, oh, that's important. Write that down. That's the goal. Oh, wow, that's not necessarily a goal. That's a to-do that I really want to accomplish here. Write that down. And we'll call those others. So you're going to come out with goals. You're going to come out with values, which we already did in the 10-year letter as far as values, but you're still going to hit on values, and I'll touch on that in a second. And then you have these others. They could be habits, to-dos, potential ideas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anything that was like you wrote and you're like, oh, I need to remember that, but it wasn't a goal or value. We'll keep that in the other category for now, okay? So with values, why are we doing that again? Well, through this 1 year, you should be validating your 10-year values, but you may come up with something new during this. You're like, oh, I didn't touch on that, the 10-year, but it came up a lot during the 1 year. That's actually a value. Don't be afraid to edit your values through this process. Don't ever be afraid to edit your values. Or maybe there was a value that really, now that you've written your 1 year letter, just, it actually isn't that much of a core value for me. So don't be afraid to add or get rid of. With the goals, you do want to ask yourself, does it align with my 10-year vision? If not, is it because the 10-year vision is lacking? And if so, refine your 10-year vision. And forgetting to write about something important is normal, right? Maybe while you're reviewing and extracting your 1 year goal letter, you come across an idea that just pops in your head. And you're like, you know what? Actually, I didn't write about that. That's a goal. Don't be afraid of that. Write that down as a goal. Just because it's not in the letter doesn't mean it's not important. The letter is just the first step in helping you figure out what you're trying to figure out. Yeah, and once that list is together, refine it so that you have a clear list of 1 year goals. So Then from there, I think it's really important to do one final review of your goals. So you're now going to put that into your LOS in the 1 year section. And let me pull that up. Okay, I've moved up here temporarily because I want to show you, just as a reminder. You're in the LOS, you go to goals and values. You already have your core values. You already have your 10-year vision. Again, don't be afraid to edit those. And then right here would be your 1 year plan. So you're going to enter the date that 1 year from writing this, and then this will be where you put in those 1 year goals. Again, these are just placeholders, so just to give you ideas of what things could be. And you can use this kind of header section if you want, or don't, but make sure you put your 1 year goals in here and add as many as you need. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you that. So going back to this, we're doing our final review of these goals. I want you now to take a step back and review your 1 year goals and your 10-year vision, and make sure there's continuity between them, because ultimately these 1 year goals should be taking you towards your 10-year vision. And if they're not good 1 year goals. Or maybe your 10-year vision isn't what is right. So you just want to refine them, add, get rid of, change it during this step to make sure that this is what you want and this is what you can accomplish in the next year to take you towards this. That's the ultimate goal. The last thing I'll say here about this is your first go around with this. I've been doing this for 10 years, and every time I do it, I'm like, wow, that really wasn't very good the last time I did it. So every quarter you're going to do this. Every quarter you're going to revisit your vision, you're going to revisit your values, your 1 year goals, and all of that, and you're going to edit them. So don't be afraid about it being perfect this first time. Perfection is the enemy of good, right? I read that last night, and I just wanted to repeat that to somebody. So here we are. But it's kind of true. So don't worry about it being perfect. Next quarter will become more perfect, and the next quarter will become more perfect, and the power of compounding will take over. Who doesn't love compounding? Okay, so there is this optional step that you've probably noticed that I do, because every week during our weekly review, I just quickly read these. Sometimes I like, and I may get rid of this at some point, but I've been doing it for as long as I can remember. I take these 1 year goals and then I just describe it. So a lot of how I wrote it in the letter, but I kind of redo it and I type it in here. So here's a placeholder: be a regular attendee at church, a Bible study, and church activities. So what does that look like? Well, I have the best church community I've ever had, and I attend a Bible study in church every week, along with some fun church activities, and I really like being there, and people like me being there. So it's more of like a description of that goal and picturing what it looks like, and I like to read that every week. You may decide that's overkill. Doesn't matter. Do your thing. That's the optional step. So to conclude the video and prepare you for the next one. So to date, we've done core values. We have a clear 10-year vision for our perfect life and our 1 year goals that will take us closer to that 10-year vision. The next focus that we're going to focus on in the next video is getting everything out of your head and into a system that is reviewed regularly at regularly set intervals, so your brain can be freed for creativity and not worry about it. So we're going to create your external brain, and we call this the hard drive. It really is the LOS, and through that you have things like the hard drive and the short-term list and the long-term list, and I'll talk more about that. But we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of the system now. We've done the high-level stuff, and now we're going to do the system. And the system alone is extremely important and can be incredibly beneficial. It might be the most beneficial. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've done tons of work on goals and stuff through your life, because it's probably just the nature of people like us. This system, I think, is what I don't see a lot of people doing, and it can really free you up. And I'm excited to show you. So have a good weekend. I'll try to get more videos out as regularly as I can, help you through it. If you got any questions, please let me know.